Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Nerd Week Live here on YouTube, brought to you by the folks, the folk. Solo tonight, the folks here at Nerd Caliber. I'm Rodney Brown, I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. I am here by myself because sickness. Much sickness out there. And I dodged it myself. Sarah, how you doing? I dodged it myself yesterday. I was pretty iffy. Knock wood, managed to avoid everything. But that was not the case with some of our regulars. They are all out, or some of them are working hard, slaving away. But a lot of it's the sickness. If you were anywhere here in the Northeast, I hope you enjoyed the weather today. It was fantastic. It was a gorgeous day for the New England Patriots to do their rolling rally parade through Boston to celebrate their 6th Super Bowl championship. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of people out there that hate me now for saying that, but, go Pats. Christina, hello. Cosplay and Reacts, hello. Ellis, hello. And one other thing I was going to mention before we get going. Oh, I was going to make a joke, and now since I'm saying I was going to make the joke, that's going to make it really awful, so I won't say it. At least not now. Christina, I'm doing well, thank you. So moving on to our very first topic, and because I am solo, there's not going to be that witty repartee. I'd like to think it's occasionally witty. Back and forth between various members of our team. So I'm just going to sort of present this stuff as news bits, and so we'll probably get through this whole thing in a half an hour, even though there's a lot of news. So we're going to start with our very first one. And our very first one is more news from... This happens, I keep saying this is now the 6th week in a row. We do a show, and within, in this case it was about a day, they put up yet more news for the upcoming movie Dune. And in this case, there's actually 2 pieces of news. First off is that's Javier Bardem. Ellis, I'm doing well. Hope you guys are all doing well as well. Javier Bardem has been cast as Stilgar, the very important chief of the Fremen who becomes a very important person in the hero Paul's life in the upcoming movie Dune. The other bit of news actually came before Bardem's naming, is Zendaya, who you probably know from a lot of things more than I do because I'm old. Zendaya has been cast as Chani, who is Paul's love interest in the book Dune. So I really think these are fantastic castings, cast makings, cast happenings. Anyway, they did a good job with the casting with these two, actually with everybody. Mariana, hola. They are joining, Timothy Chalamet as Paul. They are joining Dave Bautista as Beast Raban, Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron. Just an absolutely outstanding cast. I can't wait to see who else they cast. I would love to see them do a throwback to David Lynch's movie and cast Sir Paul Stewart, who played Gurney Halleck in the original movie, as the Emperor. Because the age is right, and it would be a nice, sort of throwback. I think that would be really cool. Gurney Halleck, I would love to see them cast, and this is going a little Game of Thrones, I'd love to see them cast Rory Calhoun, the Hound, in the Game of Thrones. Sarah, I gave you a shout out, but I'll do another one. Sarah, hello? How's Sarah Stone? Shouting out to you. Zendaya, not Aya. Thank you, Nell. I know I've heard her name pronounced in various TV shows. I pronounce it the way it looks to me, so thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. I would like to see. I'd like to see the Hound cast as Gurney Halleck for a couple of reasons. One, he's used to wearing prosthetic scars, and that's a big part of Gurney that they didn't do in the original movie. Gurney is described as having a bad comb over, and Rory Calhoun fits that in his normal life. And Gurney plays a musical instrument in the book a lot, and he never did in the movie. Rory Calhoun is a singer-songwriter, in addition to being a really big, scary actor. So that's my casting for that. So fingers crossed that we see one of those 2 cast announcements coming down the pike. Next bit of news is an image from the comic book Y the Last Man. And the news is that Y the Last Man has not been put up here in my... Anyway, the news is that Diane Lane has been cast in an important role in the Y the Last Man series. So that's all the news I have on it because I didn't bring up that particular article. So we are actually going right over to our next one. Told you this is going to be fast. This I do have up, and this is going to take a little while, even though it's only news. That is, of course, the show Black Lightning on CW. And CW just announced this past week a ton of renewals. So if you were worried that your favorite CW show was about to go off the air, yeah, don't worry about it. So Charmed is coming back for a second season. Legacies is coming back for a second season. Arrow is going to be coming back for season 8. Black Lightning for season 3. Legends of Tomorrow for season 5. And frankly, I'm shocked at that. Dynasty, not that it's nerd, but is coming back season 3. Flash is coming back for season 6. Riverdale for season 4. Supergirl for season 5. And I don't know how they're continuing to do this, but Supernatural will have a 15th season next year. So if you're a fan of the CW shows, the CW nerd shows, Ellis, again, I said hello. Ellis, hello again. Ellis9576, shout out. There we go. If you're a fan of the CW shows, folks, it doesn't look like you're going to be losing anything. They are renewing almost everything on their roster, which is good because I actually like most of them, although I still think Supergirl, the writing is abysmal and making the show, unfortunately, unwatchable. But most of the others are pretty cool. So kudos to them. I'm glad that it's working well for them. It's another example of, or it's essentially the Berlanti empire is clearly not ever going to stop now that he's got Titans and Doom Patrol and all the other stuff on the actual DC Universe streaming service. You know, Greg Berlanti is going to be milking that DC cow for a long time. And good. Glad. Keep it up. Ellis, thanks. I'm glad you like them. So here's some more DC news, folks, and I'm not really sure where to go with this. DC is making an animated Super Pets movie. And them's the Super Pets right there. 2021 release date from DC and Warner Brothers. An animated feature film, by the way, not apparent from what I understand. It's not going to go direct to streaming service. This will be a feature movie. May 21st, actually. They've got a pretty solid release date. And it apparently, or may, we're not sure. They haven't announced all of the characters. It's undoubtedly going to have Crypto the Superdog. Batman's Bat-Hound is called Ace, and I think was created just for the cartoony version that you're looking at on your screen right now. Streaky the Super Cat is from the comics, as is Beppo the Super Monkey, Comet the Super Horse. Not really sure about Aquaman's Seahorse Storm, which is not shown here. I don't believe they're showing Damien's dog Titus in here either. So I'm not really sure who I'm not sure who Flash's turtle is. That's kind of cool. I'd like to know more about Flash's turtle. Anybody out there who's watching who knows anything about the Super Pets and particularly Flash's turtle, fill us in. I didn't realize. It's kind of funny when you think about it. I mean, because none of these others are any sort of a play on the character. Although, let's go back to that. Wonder Woman apparently has a kangaroo in the cartoon, which I never saw, but yeah. So making Flash's pet a turtle is actually kind of funny. But May 21st, 2021, we got about a year and a half before we get to see this, whatever it turns out. No other announcements about voice casting or anything like that. So, you know, we'll see where that goes. Now we're getting into something that I really like this, and it is news about The Stand, the latest adaptation of Stephen King's work, which is yet again a miniseries, or a series, let's call it that. They don't call them miniseries anymore, even though that image that's on your screen right now is from the miniseries. That's Gary Sinise playing Larry Underwood, right at the very beginning, when people are still worried about the disease Captain Trips and not mostly dead from it. If you haven't read the book, it's an amazing sort of post-apocalyptic horror book, and turned into a pretty solid post-apocalyptic horror miniseries years and years ago. The news is that this new version is coming to CBS All Access. So the CBS streaming service, which is bringing us currently Star Trek Discovery, and will be bringing us Picard, and other bits and pieces, is in production right now. No word in this article as to exactly when we're going to see it. Yeah, nothing for sure in here about it, or any of the cast. We do know that it will be 10 episodes long, and it is from Josh Boone, who did The Fault in Our Stars, and the co-creator and executive producer of the show SEAL Team, Ben Cavill. So I'm not really sure what kind of show that means we're going to get. Randall Flagg with more guns than he had? I don't know. Ellis, welcome back. Didn't see that you had left, but and Sarah has left, but hopefully she'll be back. Cosplay and Reacts, yeah, Flash. So I've been hot and cold on Flash for the last couple of seasons. I watched much of this first season because I really liked the story arc with or the story idea of his daughter coming back and sort of screwing things up, like father, like daughter when it comes to time travel. But I can't remember what the episode was. There was one where just the writing went sideways for me. I know I really have a problem with the idea of all of the different versions of Dr. What's his name? The Reverse Flash, but the real guy. It's almost like, as much as I like that actor, I think he's a really good actor, it's almost like they said, you know what, we really want him on the show, let's just write parts where he is an alternate universe version of himself at least once or twice throughout the entire given season. And it's like, really? I have not seen Aquaman yet, Kimberly. I'm afraid I can't say how it was. I believe we have a review up on the website, nerdcaliber.com, so go check that out. But anyway, The Stand coming at some point to CBS All Access. If you get a chance to watch the original miniseries, Gary Sinise, who's Larry, that guy, was really good. Matt Frewer played, who's the voice of the Archbishop in Castlevania, if that's what you're into. Kimberly, also haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse. I work mostly from home and I don't get out a lot, so one of these days I'll get it. And actually I was just going to see a movie and then things got in the way, so I won't be doing the review of this movie. It's coming out from Byron, who went to see it. That aside, I recommend going to see the previous miniseries, because if you get a chance to watch Matt Frewer as the character Trash Can Man, it's kind of hard to imagine anybody doing that psychotic individual better than Matt Frewer at the peak of his absolute popularity and craziness. So check it out. But looking forward to this one whenever it appears. I'm guessing 2020 at the absolute earliest. Our next, I'm going to have to explain this artwork. I'm sorry, folks. So the story is about a War of the Worlds series that's coming. I couldn't find, and I guess Spielberg has this locked down like crazy, I couldn't find a high-res version of the recent Tom Cruise movie to save my life to put up here as an example. So what I did is I found an image from the really old Marvel Comics War of the Worlds Killraven um, series, which was set supposedly at a point in the middle 21st century after the the Martians had invaded, and basically Killraven was this gladiator type guy who leads a Spartacus-like revolution against the Martians. It's the campiest, cheesiest comic book sword and science fiction spectacle you've ever read. It's hilarious. It got really deep at the end, as a lot of these things did when they knew they were going down the tubes. So there's some really excellent artwork and some excellent stories in the last, say, 12 issues. But that has nothing to do with what we're actually talking about. It's the War of the Worlds series that is going to be done by Fox from Canal Plus, so it's probably going to wind up with a distribution either on FX or Fox on basic cable here in the United States, and who knows where in the rest of the world. The series is going to be a fairly accurate retelling of the invasion and post-invasion, but it's going to be set in modern times, like the Cruise movie is. Gabriel Byrne, who was in Hereditary and has been in a lot of wonderful movies, is going to be starring along with Elizabeth McGovern, darling of the 80s, and actually darling of the Downton Abbey crowd, if you're the Downton Abbey crowd, will be the two lead characters in the series. Leah Drucker, Natasha Little, Daisy Edgar-Jones, Stephanie Caillard, Adele Ben-Sharif, and Guillaume Gui? Guillaume Gui. Let's go with Gui. Will be also starring in this. So it looks like it's going to be a UK-France co-production kind of thing. So it looks like it could be very interesting. We are later this year. The BBC version. The BBC is actually making another version, which is actually set period accurate. So early 20th century, and that will be, actually not even early 20th century, late 19th century from the book. And that will be coming out on the BBC later this year. The Fox version with Gabriel Byrne and Elizabeth McGovern is sometime after that. My guess is, again, 2020 at the earliest. And our next bit of television news is, I hope you guys, whether you watched the Super Bowl or not, I hope you folks went and watched the commercial for the upcoming Twilight Zone series. It was just a really cool, wonderful bit of kind of breaking the fourth wall. I hate giving away anything. It starts off with making it look like the Super Bowl goes off the air. And then instead of going into the standard Twilight Zone entrance piece of do not adjust your set, they don't actually use that terminology, which I think would have been cool. It goes into something similar and shows Jordan Peele walking across an empty stadium that everybody has disappeared from, and basically introducing the show. And it is Jordan Peele's show, and he is going to do the Rod Serling narration of every single episode. So I'm really looking forward to this. The news, other than the commercial, which is great, and go see it, actually came out before the Super Bowl by quite a few days. And it is premiering on CBS All Access April 1st. So I hope they don't do an April Fool's joke and trick us all and it doesn't actually show up, because that would suck. They're really looking forward to this. They've announced all sorts of fantastic cast members for various individual episodes. And it's going to be like the Twilight Zone, so it's all episodic. It is, here's a standalone 1 hour piece, here's another standalone 1 hour piece. Like Black Mirror is right now, frankly. And with Jordan Peele behind it, it's going to be tough for this thing to fail. Shout out to Techno Viking, Reefer Kiefer channel. Shout out there. So yeah, check it out. April 1st. If you have CBS All Access, if you're if you're a fan of Star Trek Discovery like I am, you probably do. If you're a fan of what they're probably going to be doing with Picard, but are waiting, you might want to fire it up before the Picard series drops at the end of this year, so you can check out the Twilight Zone that Jordan Peele is doing. And moving on to our next one, and we're again into more adaptations of series. This is from a comic, and it's going to be an animated adaptation. That is from Invincible. Robert Kirkman's wonderful take on the superhero tropes and themes that are common throughout comic books. He doesn't turn them on its head, not so much in the way that The Watchmen does. He just takes them to sort of logical conclusions. It is disturbingly violent at times, which would make sense. It is a hyper-dramatic family drama. And when I say hyper-dramatic, I mean disturbingly violently hyper-dramatic. But fantastically well written. And I'm hoping it's going to be a much better adaptation of one of his works than The Walking Dead ultimately turned out to be. By the time The Walking Dead got into season probably 5, it was, let's hope for more than one outstanding episode per season. And unfortunately, that's what it had become. It's like, let's slog through all of these to hopefully we get to the just look at the pretty flowers episode. Or we get to the governor attacking the prison episode. Any of those that are really, fantastic. But those were one or two within a whole season. And since then, I haven't watched this season at all, frankly. Although I just read, I guess we might do this for next week, but it got renewed for yet another season. So Walking Dead will be coming back. Anyway, talking about Invincible, big announcements were that Invincible is adding Stephen Yuen and J.K. Simmons to the voice cast. This show is coming on Amazon Prime Video. It's going to be an 8-episode animated series. Sometime in 2020. We don't know exactly when. So it's being produced by Seth Rogen and others who've already done a fantastic job of adapting Preacher. So we know they can do good comic adaptations of challenging comic material. So let's hope that works out. But they've already got Sandra Oh, Seth Rogen, Gillian Jacobs, Andrew Rannells, Zazie Beetz, Mark Hamill, Walton Goggins. Yes. Just a fantastic cast. So I'm really looking forward to this. I hope they do a really solid job of excellent animation as well. I want it to be at least the quality of Castlevania, which is Netflix, of course, not Amazon. Amazon has worked in the past, as has Netflix, with, I can't think of the name of the studio that does that fantastic 3D CG animation. Kato the Right Answer, Knights of Sidonia, Ajin was one of theirs. So if that's the way it goes, I think it would be good. But I'd kind of like to see more traditional cell-based animation like Castlevania. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. Very excited about having J.K. Simmons. J. Jonah Jameson. I'm hoping he plays Invincible's dad, whose character name I can't remember. Anybody in the chat, if you can remember his name, Dominator? Anyway. Somebody let me know. And moving on to our next topic, we are still, I should say, in comic book land. You've seen the news out there, folks. Ben Affleck will no longer be Batman in the Warner Brothers DC universe. The Batman, which was supposed to be his solo movie, will come summer 2021. And they are going with a younger look for Batman. It's not going to be an origin story. And they make this very clear. They are not going to be remaking Batman Year One. It won't be based on Batman Year One. Which is kind of too bad, but they already did an amazing animated version of Batman Year One. Go check that out if you're into the Warner Brothers animation stuff. So the director is Matt Reeves, and this is going to be a script that he co-wrote with Jeff Johns. But Affleck is just, he's not the right age, I guess, and I don't know whether they don't have enough for him to do beyond producing, which is what he was going to be doing. Oh, he was going to be originally producing, writing, and directing. So, in which case Batman would have been based out of Charlestown, Mass. And robbing Fenway Park. That's a local joke. So yeah, it's 2021. The Batman, not going to be Ben Affleck. There's a lot of rumors out there about who they're going to cast. There's a lot of good. The Tom Cullen one, I think I like. He looks the part. That would be good. But there's so many people that they could be out there. Anybody in the chat, let me know who you think is going to be the best or the right next Batman for the Batman. And on to our next to the last of our bits of information here. So the news is about James Gunn. Just give you a heads up, folks. That's a photo I shot of James Gunn at Dragon Con with the amazing cosplayer Feral Heart, I think, on Instagram now. The problem with Instagram, you folks, is you change your names and it doesn't follow with full URL links. So I keep having to try to remember who these people are, particularly if they change their name every week, like Utopia Hound, which is what she does on Instagram. Anyway, that's me whining as a photographer trying to track you guys down. So, but the news is James Gunn is a rumor, let's put it that way, in deep talks to be the director of the next Suicide Squad film, which will be not a direct sequel. It will, in fact, be a reboot. Completely different cast, from what I understand. Completely different story, theme, concept, direction. I'm really behind this if this is going to be the case. Both in the direction that they want to take with it, making it a reboot, trying to fix, let's say, the problems that were there in the first Suicide Squad movie, and getting James Gunn back into a director's chair. Please. Let's get this deal signed. Get him in on this project. Complete side note: at the recent a recent Hollywood Insider industry event, Taika Waititi was interviewed about possibly taking over. He was the director of Thor Ragnarok. It was interviewed about possibly taking over for James Gunn in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and he said, no way, no how. And when they pushed him for a reason, he said because it was Jim's, I guess he calls him Jim, they're friends. It was Jim's product, and it has his hands all over it, and he wouldn't want to touch that. So good for him. But if this comes out, it's going to be way later, not way later, August 2021. So I guess they'd better get something signed and get going here. Apparently they just put that in an August 2021 time slot. Good, excellent. He apparently had already signed on to write the sequel. So making him the director makes a lot of sense. Because he does that really well with his own products. So, fingers crossed. Our last topic tonight is kind of the most unpleasant, definitely the most unpleasant, but also one of the most uplifting because of the outcome. So that's a picture of Vic Mignogna. I don't know if you've been following this, but there has been recently another wave of the constant waves over the last 10 years of people talking about Vic Mignogna, at the very least, violating consent for touch and even kissing at conventions, and at the very worst, stuff that could be considered sexual assault. And this has been going on literally for a decade. When I first got into the community about a decade ago, it was one of the very first things I heard about. And it has apparently reached, this wave this time has reached a crescendo peak where enough people with enough credible evidence of accusations came out and were willing to speak up about his issues, that he started getting canceled, his appearances canceled at cons all throughout 2019. Mignogna admitted in a post on his Twitter channel, on his Twitter page, that he was, in fact, guilty of, and apologized for, holding people too closely, touching them, and even kissing them on the cheek or forehead without permission, which he says is basically the kind of friendly, outgoing sort of person he is. Jose, howdy, welcome to the show. I don't care how friendly and outgoing you are, if you've been called out on doing this 10 years ago, you stopped doing it. It's called consent violation. You can't do that. You know, it's just the way it is. Now, apparently, he's apologized, but still says that it was just the way he is, and he's just that kind of a friendly guy, and then went and did what completely sealed the deal for me, is he did the classic emotional abuser behavior of telling all of his followers that still have faith in him that I'm sorry, but I can't hug you or kiss you from now on at all because of this problem. Making his choice to step away from actually agreeing to a wished consented touch the problem of the accusers who accused him of non-consensual touch. Frankly, folks, that's an abuser. That's abuser 101 behavior. So yeah, done. He just got booted off the show Ruby. He will no longer be a voice actor on RWBY on Ruby. And good. Now, good. Get rid of him. If he does the, drag his face through razor blades, I'm sorry, public relations tour across the country, maybe. Now, if he can prove that he can not do this stuff, almost, for a good amount of time, then maybe bring him back. Let's see what happens. But blaming your victims for taking away something that your real fans wanted after 10 years of being constantly accused of this and apologizing for being too friendly, so you're touching people when they didn't ask for it. Yeah, no. That's not an apology. That's a Kevin Spacey, bullshit apology, and the industry is better without him. So I guess that's kind of my rant at the end of the show. In addition to the news that he has both been canceled from almost every con he was scheduled for in 2019, and has been booted off Ruby. That's the news. You find an abuser, you call him out. It's the only way we can get him to stop. That's it. That's the only lesson. So on that unfortunately rather down note, or again upbeat if you're feel like championing the fact that the system worked finally. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for the chats. Thank you for keeping me company on this solo night here. When everybody's at home coughing up a lung or blowing their noses or other worse things in some cases. We will see you not tomorrow. We will see you next week, which is going to be the 12th, according to my calendar right there. Same time, 8 o'clock. We will have some new team members. And I think you guys are going to be pretty excited. Lots more interactivity, greater diversity. 2019 is looking really good for the show. So hope you guys can make it. Hopefully there'll be all sorts of nerd news in between now and then that we can talk about. And in the meantime, everybody have a safe week, have a fun week, an enjoyable weekend, and we'll see you next time right here on YouTube for Nerd Week Live. Bye-bye.